Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sixer Sense podcast. I'm your host Lucas with Chris and Michael. Michael, we missed you. Welcome back. And
Good to be back.
yeah, definitely. And I just want to note here that we are doing pretty much nothing but draft stuff, except for maybe a little bit of NBA Finals at the end, but nothing too crazy. That being said, I'm going to give the reins to Chris on this one because this is Chris's specialty. So, without further ado.
Yeah, guys, we're doing another mock draft, but before we get into that, we're going to talk about the mock that went up at ESPN yesterday. They have finally, at long last, switched VJ Edgecombe to number 3. According to Jonathan Gavoni, Edgecombe made, quote, a strong impression in private workouts, as well as in a meeting with the front office and ownership, and he is, quote, the leader in the clubhouse right now. Conversely, Ace Bailey, a guy we've talked about a lot, is supposedly losing momentum after what Gavoni said, quote, refusing to visit, initially unsatisfied with his search for a proven pathway to development. I think that sounds silly on the surface. That report definitely made the rounds yesterday. Sixers PR, it seems, quickly shot down the idea that Bailey had refused to work out. Sixer beat writer, Philly Voices, Adam Aronson, sent out a report saying that he checked in with a Sixer source who denied that report. So there's some conflicting information here. But I'll go to you first, Michael. What was your reaction to the Ace Bailey tidbit? And how confident are you at this point that VJ Edgecombe is going to be a Sixer a week from now?
Yeah, Chris, and I can kind of piggyback off that because I also got a text from Sixers PR shortly after that report dropped that they basically refuted that he had ever refused. He hadn't been in yet. The reporting that's come out since is that he will be in the building tomorrow, Friday, in Camden for the in-person workout with the Sixers. But, I think it's interesting, and I do think, at least from the outside perspective, it really does seem like Edgecombe has edged out Bailey in the time for there we go. Thanks, Lucas. For that third spot for what the Sixers are looking for. To me, I think there's still a week until the draft. I think you kind of got to pump the brakes a little bit. I'll be curious to see, what kind of reporting comes out of the Ace Bailey workout in Philly tomorrow. Unfortunately, media is not going to be in there, so we won't get to see firsthand what he does, but I think that will go a long way toward determining, and kind of like the tea leaves, like once that workout's done, if we get some reports that the Sixers were really impressed with Ace Bailey and blah, 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 maybe you start leaning back toward Bailey. But with the information that we have right now, they were certainly impressed with VJ. Tyrese Maxey was involved in going out to eat, kind of getting a feel for him. He was in the building in Camden. They were impressed with what they saw. So I think it's fair at this point, 1 week out from the draft, almost exactly, to say that, VJ's the leader. I'm not ready to say 100% that's what's going to happen. I think there's still a lot of time left, but for sure, I think it looks like right now he would be the pick, assuming the Sixers stay at that third spot.
Yeah, I tend to agree. This is not the best look for Bailey, whether or not it's true or not. The perception is already out there, and whether or not it's true. My there was another report, and I'm sure you guys heard of it, that he was a quote unquote D head. But other scouts were saying, oh no, he's not that. He's he's just immature for his age. Whatever. Look, when you think of top picks, you don't think of guys that go to like Rutgers, right? Why do you go to Rutgers, right? Because you want to shine out and be like the best, look a lot better than maybe perceptively you actually are, right?
I will say I think a lot of that was playing with Harper.
Well, I mean, yeah, but why would Harper want to go
Harper's
to Rutgers?
brother went to Rutgers. There's a family history there.
Okay,
I think there's some. That's
okay,
mostly
but
Harper, if I had to guess.
He was a big fish in a small pond. What happens if he goes to a big pond and he's the little fish? How does he, do that? Maybe that's a little bit of locker room stuff. We do. The positive about the Sixers is that we're not on no short of veterans. For me, I was in Ace Bailey's, and I do think that technically he could become the best player out of this draft. But all the reporting makes it sound like to me that maybe he wants to be the place where he can be the guy right away. And obviously Philly's not going to be the spot for that. And, whether or not he sees himself as a top 3 pick or not is moot point here. places like New Orleans, Washington would be better spots for him if he wants to be. Honestly, Washington would be the ideal spot if he wants to be the guy, right? I don't think he falls that far, but who knows? Maybe in this mock draft he will. But like,
Yeah.
you know, for me, I think Edgecombe. Look, the only thing that I will say about Edgecombe, and Keith Pompey brought this up, does drafting Edgecombe kind of push you out of the business of Quinn Grimes?
I don't think so.
You know, it's a fair. I'm not saying yes or no, but I think it's a fair argument to or conversation to have at this point. Because what are you going to do with 5 guards under 6'5"? 4 guards under 6'5", right? It's not, like I said. You know, obviously the Pacers made it show that it's not impossible, but like, are they the exception or the rule? Like, right? Who knows? So, like, I don't know. It's an interesting place if we go Edgecombe. Obviously, shakes up the draft board a little bit. Yeah, but that's just I don't think, honestly, there's a lot of misdirection. Don't believe anything until draft night. That's the way I see it, which is about a week away.
Yeah, and I mean, I was going to add, sorry, Chris, I know you want to say, I was going to say, you have to think about, like, reports like this come out for a reason. And are there teams, is this reporting coming from a team a little bit lower in the lottery that's really technically high on Ace Bailey and is kind of floating this out? So with the hopes, like, hey, you know, maybe this will let him drop a couple spots
or
and fall
maybe
into
the
our lap.
Sixers told him not to work out with any other team besides them.
Right. So there is always, you know, you get two sides to every coin.
Yeah. I am not buying any of the reporting that Ace Bailey is like a bad person, kid, whatever you want to call him. Like, that is not what Gavoni, who
I don't think they said he was a bad person. I think they said he was immature.
Yeah, which, like,
he's 18.
He's 18.
I was gonna say he's also 18. Yeah.
I don't care if you're like dancing in the layup line or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. So, frankly, seems like a cool guy. I have no like issues or concerns about him as a person. But yeah, I mean, look, I think it's an interesting kind of case study for all these reports that come out in the weeks leading up to the draft. I'm with you, Michael. I'm really interested to see how the mood and the tone shifts after the workout this week. If it does, if it's still just Edgecombe all the way, or if it starts to turn, because it very well could. I'm not ruling out Ace Bailey at 3 yet. Notably, he does go to Washington, which is a team where he could go to a lot of shots, go get a lot of shots in the ESPN mock draft. We know the Pelicans want him. Pelicans just added a second first-round pick in a trade with the Pacers. They have the ammo to move up a couple spots if he does fall. That kind of possibility where maybe these other teams are leaking it out to drop him down the board certainly seems very possible. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We also know that Con Knipple has a Zoom interview scheduled.
Yes.
Which reads to me as code for he's just not going to go to Philly. Unless it's a really impressive Zoom interview. But do you guys, I'll go to you again first, Michael. Do you see any like room here for a surprise at number 3 that isn't Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe?
If we consider a trade back a surprise, I do think there's still a world where a trade back could happen. I think
that is a surprise.
Okay, then yeah, I think that's still a possibility. I don't think it's the most likely scenario. I think right now, if I had to bet, I would say the most likely scenario is that they stay at 3, and one of those two guys right now looking like VJ. I'm not ready to write off Ace. I think that's the most likely outcome. I do think there's a world where a trade back to one of those teams in the 4, 5, 6, 7 potential range and getting an additional asset could be valuable to the Sixers and something they consider. So if that, that would be the surprise. In terms of a selection, though, I would be very surprised at this point if they stay at 3 and the pick isn't one of those two guys. Unless, of course, if Dylan Harper somehow happens to fall, of course, that would be the pick. But if not,
it doesn't sound like it.
No, it doesn't. So, yeah, to me, assuming they'd make that pick, I think it'd be one of the two guys that we've been talking about for sure.
Yeah, I just, yet again, I don't see it happening. And going to Michael's point here, if they trade out, the only way that they get one or the other is if they only trade back one spot. Like whoever's trading up is probably getting Ace Bailey. Like nobody's going to trade up for VJ Edgecombe. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
not over Bailey.
There have been reports that Charlotte really likes Edgecombe. So I could see a world in which Charlotte is like, we really like VJ and we'll move up a spot with like the 30. They have a couple second-round picks. They can maybe make something work.
Maybe. I don't know. For me, I wouldn't. I don't know. You only get 3 so many times, especially when your team is supposed to be contending. You have a high salary cap, so salary number. So I unless it's only to trade down 1 or 2 spots, I wouldn't do it. Of course, then again, I'm not really high on Trey Johnson or I like Colin Knippel, but I just think you need to go for a guy that has star potential at this point. That's what the franchise needs. I do want to note something interesting though. We said earlier that Tyrese Maxey was at this workout. Usually you have the franchise player there. Joel Embiid was not at that workout. It was Tyrese Maxey. Now, you could argue Joel was injured, but let's be real. The Sixers have been maneuvering this since last summer when they gave Tyrese that little shrine that he has been the guy of the future here. Joel's just here for the ride at this point.
We still haven't even got an update on Joel. Speaking of Joel.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since we were supposed to get an update. I don't expect one until after the draft, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or until we have a free agent press conference. Or draft press conference, either one.
Until Morey has to get in front of a microphone. He will get asked about it at the draft, after the draft. That's gonna happen. So we'll see how he answers. But look, I don't want to read too much into Maxey being there and Embiid not. I don't know if the Sixers player who is the franchise,
you don't have to though.
Who's perceived as the franchise player. I think Joel just likes being at home during the offseason. I think that's
part of the problem. He likes to be at home versus in the gym.
Oh, okay, well, all right, Skip Bayless. But anyways, we're gonna do a mock here. I'm gonna hit the transition button. We're going to do a mock. I'm just going to ask you guys right now. Do we want to try to predict what's going to happen, or do we want to do what we would do again?
I think we should change it up. Let's predict what will happen.
Okay. So we will do that. We have also changed the order so that we will have Lucas making the number 1 overall pick. I will be making the 2nd overall pick, and Michael will be picking 3rd, and we will continue in that order through the first round. I'm interested to see how we predict things. I think this will be a fun exercise. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to Lucas. You are on the clock with the Dallas Mavericks at number 1. This is a real mystery.
Lot of suspense here.
Look, I've been getting trade calls all day from Milwaukee about Giannis. But I'm not going to take that call. Instead, I'm going to get Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, I agree. Anything you want to add about Cooper Flagg, who we definitely haven't talked about at all?
He's in Dallas as, it's not really a visit in terms of working out. It's more like, hey, here are the good restaurants. Here are the, where you live. Obviously we don't know that for sure, but let's be real. It probably is. So there's that.
Yeah, he's touring apartments right now.
Yeah, he's looking at apartments. What is it called? Apartment Zillow? Apartments.com.
Apartments.com.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I wonder if you can get an apartment at Cooper Flagg's tax bracket on apartments.com.
Well, remember that they don't have income tax there in Texas.
That's true. He also made $28 million in NIL deals at Duke, apparently.
That is crazy.
He's doing well for himself.
I can't. Some of these players are not coming back is because they're getting more on NIL, and I honestly don't blame them. But now the NBA has to step it up.
That's the thing is the second round this year is a lot thinner than it normally is because a lot of guys went back.
Well, I guess my question and sidebar here real quick. Now that I guess the college kind of has a salary cap, not really because they're still NIL. I don't like NIL, to be honest with you. Not directly related from a college. If a sponsor wants to give you NIL, that's fine. But from I don't like that. But do you think that a college salary cap is going to be coming in the near future?
I don't know. We'll see.
I think it should be. I think
Possible.
It should be.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade, but it definitely seems like the kind of thing that could.
Yeah.
Something like that could end up happening.
All right, Chris. Are you veering left, or are the Spurs picking Dylan Harper?
I'm definitely getting phone calls like you, Lucas, about teams wanting to move up. I definitely have some concerns about how Harper fits with Fox and Castle in the backcourt. All that said, he's pretty clearly the number 2 guy on the board, so I'm going to take Dylan Harper with the 2nd overall pick. We'll figure out the fit later. If we have to trade Castle or Fox in a couple years, so be it. It's one of the best downhill playmaking, finishing guards in a while, has the size of a wing. I think the defense is going to be just fine. I think Wemby will enjoy playing with him quite a bit. So the Spurs very happily take Dylan Harper at number 2, which puts Michael and the Philadelphia 76ers on the clock with the number 3 overall pick.
This is the big one, fellas. But, seeing as we're doing this mock in terms of what we think might happen based on the information that we currently have, this isn't necessarily 100% necessarily what I would do, but it does seem like at this point, the number 3 pick, assuming the Sixers keep it, like you guys said, they've been getting some calls. Daryl's been on the phones, wants to add a young talent to the roster. I think they go with VJ Edgecombe here. Worry about fit a little bit later. Daryl made that clear, leading up to this draft in terms of his the way he would approach the draft. Would he draft for fit, draft for best player available? Made it pretty clear that best player available was the route that he planned to take. If fit was considered, maybe you do go in a different direction with an Ace Bailey or somebody else. But I think the upside of VJ Edgecombe is undeniable. The athleticism, the playmaking, the explosion. A little bit of work to do, obviously, with the shot and maybe defensively, but the fit and everything, I think you worry about later. You bring him into Philly, and you have a really nice stable of guards in the backcourt there with him, Maxey, McCain. If you bring Grimes back, maybe it's a little bit of protection, that pick, in case Grimes gets a huge offer elsewhere and decides to sign somewhere else. You still have, a trio of really good, young, talented guards. So, I think, obviously, like we kind of touched on, things could change with the Bailey workout in Philly tomorrow. Who knows, over the next week. But right now, I'm going with VJ at number 3 for Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good pick. Lucas, you're on
All
the
right.
clock.
So
Number 4, Charlotte Hornets. The team.
If I'm Charlotte, I feel pretty comfortable about the duo of Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller. So I'm actually going to go Trey Johnson here.
It's my guy.
I wouldn't. Now, to be clear, I don't feel good about Miles Bridges, but they do, or else they wouldn't have paid him. So they're gonna keep with that, and they're gonna upgrade the shooting guard position with Trey Johnson. Or it may not be trying to manufacture Ace Bailey to the Wizards. We'll see.
Well, that would be, I think, a pretty catastrophic decision, which is something Charlotte is used to. So
yeah,
good for them. Number 5, Washington is on the clock.
No, Utah is on the clock.
Sorry, I'm picking for Utah. Pardon. Okay, the Utah Jazz are on the clock. Who am I predicting to Utah at number 5?
I think they go with Con Knuppel or Jeremiah Fears.
Are you making the pick, Lucas?
I'm just saying. You said it like a question. I'm answering said question.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Con Knuppel here.
I knew it.
There's been a lot of top 5 buzz for Con. I think he fits what Utah likes to do. He also looks like he should be on the Utah Jazz. So
why is that?
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, come on.
You.
Come on.
I got you.
Look, good shooter is going to make a team better as soon as he gets there. I think the idea that he doesn't have a high ceiling is misleading. I think there's some real potential there with his driving and his secondary playmaking. I think he'll be a fine defender, if not a great one. Obviously, there will be limitations as a guy who's 6'6" with pretty, he's kind of ground bound, doesn't have a very long wingspan, but I think he'll get by. And I think Utah will be pretty happy that he fell to 5.
The next Gordon Hayward.
Good point. You have made that comp in the past, and look where we are.
Yes.
All right, number 6. This will go to Michael. This is the Washington Wizards. Ace Bailey is still on the board. Who are you going with, Michael?
You just nailed it, Chris. I think if you're the Wizards and you're sitting at 6 and Ace Bailey falls into your lap, I think you're pretty excited. This is a team that could pretty much use everything, and especially a guy that could, potentially, obviously we've talked about the concerns with Ace Bailey, but the ceiling is still tremendously high. A guy that could potentially turn into the next star of the Wizards, something they've kind of really been searching for, ever since obviously pretty much the John Wall, Bradley Beal era. They moved on from those guys. They haven't had much of an identity. I think that they would be really happy with Bailey falling to them at 6. So that's the direction I'm going with here.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, number 7 is the New Orleans Pelicans. Lucas, a lot going on there.
There is a lot going on there. Honestly, and they have a new GM, so I don't even know how this GM. He's a first time GM, isn't he?
No, it's Joe Dumars.
Oh, Joe Dumars. Okay, he likes defense. I'm gonna go with Maluwatch here. I know that they just had an all rookie defensive center, but like they're gonna go with highest upside here, and like Maluwatch, like he has some flashes of Embiid in his game, so like they're gonna go there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair prediction. They do need a center still. I don't know if Misi is the guy there long term.
I mean, he's a great backup, if nothing else.
I agree. I would agree with that statement. I think Maluwatch doesn't shoot yet, but there's some touch there. He's a good free throw shooter. I think you could see him spacing the floor a few years from now. The defense obviously is incredible, and that is something that they need quite substantially. So, yeah, that puts Brooklyn on the clock with their first of 4 first-round picks at
This
number
is
8.
exciting. I'm curious where Michael goes with this. Michael, you could go a lot of
I
different
am
directions.
going with this, Lucas.
Oh, you are?
Actually.
Where are you going?
Where am I going?
I think I know.
Great question. Where am I going? I think they're going to take Jeremiah Fears if he falls here. They really are a blank slate. Fears is one of the most obvious kind of star bets in this class. As a guy who can create advantages and really prop up an offense on his shoulders. Has a long way to go. The shooting's not great right now. Going to turn the ball over. The defense is a mess. Has a lot to work on, but just the tools and his ability to get downhill and create advantages as a ball handler is next to none in this draft, frankly. So 18 years old, super young. Brooklyn can take him, and really develop him slow and patiently. So Jeremiah Fears out of Oklahoma, the point guard, goes to Brooklyn at number 8, which puts Michael on the clock at number 9 with the Toronto Raptors.
Like the Nets, I think the Raptors have a lot of different ways they could go. I'm actually going to go with a little bit of an international play here, Noah Assange.
I hate you so much.
I'm sorry, Lucas. I hate to hear that from you because I like you so much, buddy. But just like a versatile forward, I think they could slot in. Obviously, they have Scotty Barnes at one of the forward positions, but he has nice size for the position, nice length, athleticism. The pre-draft process, at least from what I've seen, has been a little bit of a mystery. He hasn't really talked to or tried out with teams. I think that season
he's still playing. He's in the playoffs right
that's
now.
what I thought. Yeah. I was just going to say I think their season is still ongoing, so it's obviously limited how much he's been able to do in the pre-draft process. If they weren't still playing, I think he might even be getting a little bit more hype and potentially being projected a little bit higher up on some of these mock drafts just based off the skill set. But I think he would fit in nicely with Toronto doesn't have too much in terms of a solid foundation. I think he would be a guy that they could help, kind of build with and try to climb back into that contender conversation in the East.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I like it. Good pick for them is what I will say. Also, that would be an extremely Masai Ujiri thing to do. So I think it checks several boxes. All right, number 10, Lucas, you have the Houston Rockets, who have been in conversation with the Phoenix Suns about Kevin Durant, but right now they're picking 10th. Who you got?
So this is tough because they don't really have a quote unquote true point guard after Fred VanVleet. I mean, I see Reed Shepherd as more of a combo guard. Same thing with Amon Thompson. And you could make the case for Yaku Jonas, but he's not really a defender. This might be a reach, but I'm going Carter Bryant here at number 10.
I don't hate it.
He's a Ime Udoka type of guy.
Yeah.
Can't shoot great. I mean, look, I almost went Colin Murray's Boyle, but I just see more offensive upside with Carter Bryant.
Okay, well, you're right, I guess. Yeah, look, Carter Bryant probably needs a few years before he's contributing at a super high level. Didn't really have a huge role at Arizona, but
I mean,
all the Rocks are there. Houston has a ton of depth. I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
kind of roll the dice there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that puts me on the clock with the Portland Trailblazers, who could go a number of directions here. One of the more interesting situations in this lottery, I would say. But I am going to say that they will take Kasparas Yakuchonis out of Illinois, the 19-year-old Lithuanian point guard, 6'8", wingspan 6'6", 205 pounds. really skilled playmaker out of pick and rolls, has a really nice step back jumper in his bag. Going to need to cut down on some of the turnovers. There's some athletic concerns as far as how he handles pressure, but just thinks the game at a really high level, makes some really creative plays, and they really don't have a lot of that kind of player in Portland. They have a lot of really talented, like, downhill scoring guards, guys who can shoot. They don't really have, like, a lot of connective tissue right now, and I think Yakutronis can give them that. So they take Yakutronis at 11, which puts Michael on the clock with the best run front office in the NBA. The Chicago Bulls at number 12.
I'll try to do them proud here. To me, I think you look at the Bulls, a lot of holes up and down the roster. The front court kind of sticks out to me. Vucevic is a guy that's been seemingly mentioned as a trade candidate for the past 5 years. He's like mid-30s. He's obviously not like a long-term solution for them. I don't think you feel great about Zach Collins in that role moving forward. So if I'm the Bulls with this pick, I'm going with Derek Queen out of Maryland. I think a guy that all three of us like. Just a really talented big man coming out of college. One of the best big men in this draft. I think he could be potentially a guy that, slides into that starting center spot in Chicago in the maybe the short term, even as opposed to the long term, and can kind of hold that spot down for them. I think they'd be, pretty good value for the pick at that point in the draft. So I'm going with DQ there.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Good pick. Which, I don't know if Chicago has many of those on the record, but
they should bring me into the front office.
I think that is the right move. I think it makes sense. Lucas, you are now on the clock with the Atlanta Hawks at number 13. They do not really have a front office right now, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Who are you picking?
Part of me wants to go Colin Murray's Boyles, but he's going to be stuck behind Jalen Johnson, and I don't like that for him. I think I'm going to go, and I'm doing this on purpose so that you can draft him with the next pick for the Spurs, because I do like that fit. I'm going to go Assad Newell. He can play backup center for them, power forward, either one. Murray's Boyles is a little, he can play center, but let's be real, he's more of a power forward. So, yeah.
Sure.
I'm getting Colin Murray's Boyles to the best place possible for him.
UGA guy going to the Hawks, that's fun. I think that makes sense. I could see them doing that. Spurs at 14. C'est moi. We picked Harper at 2. Obviously we need shooting at some point. So this is a predictive exercise.
And I know what you're about to do. You better not.
I would pick Colin Murray Boyles here. No questions asked. Talent over fit. Just make it work. Easy.
I think there is a fit there,
I'm not sure if that's what the Spurs would do there. You have 3 guards who don't really shoot well. Wemby's like your best. Wemby and Vassell are your only real shooters right now. I don't know if they're going to take another guy who doesn't shoot at all here. That's just my honest appraisal of. I don't think the league views Colin Murray Boyles as high as I do. So,
pause for a second. Do you think it's possible, going back to the Spurs here, that if they make a Kevin Durant trade, that they actually trade De'Aaron Fox and just go with Dylan Harper and a Castle? Contract-wise, it would make it easier, and the Suns get a more, win-now player, which I know they seem to be wanting.
It's certainly interesting. The only risk is if Harper doesn't hit, which is, there's no guarantee in the draft. There's a little bit of risk there. Fox is the more established all-star point guard, but
is he really an all-star point guard though in today's NBA?
Yeah, Fox is good.
At his best, I would say. Yeah,
he's going to look really good next to Wemby for a full season, I would say.
Okay. So what are you doing?
All right, where am I going? It's a great question. I don't even know if I know the answer yet.
What are the Spurs doing?
The Spurs.
You are not drafting. The Spurs are.
That's right. Greg Popovich, am going to go the Kawhi Leonard route and take a guy who kind of flew under radars all season, hasn't had a ton of super high level experience, maybe isn't a complete product yet. But I'm going to take Cedric Coward out of Washington State. Only played 6 games this season. Was hurt his shoulder. Was at Eastern Washington before that. Has, again, very little high-level experience. But this is a guy who has been rocketing up boards, has generated some lottery buzz, had a really strong combine. 6'5" and without shoes, with a 7'2" wingspan, shoots a nice 3-pointer, has a really high defensive ceiling, plays hard, plays smart, really needs to work on his handle and get stronger. But there's a really nice framework there. Physically, he's drawn some Kawhi comps just because of how long his arms are. There's some sense that maybe he could be a guy who really comes into his own in a few years and outperforms his draft slot. So I have the Spurs taking Cedric Coward out of Washington State at number 14, which puts Michael on the board at 15, picking for my Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Chris, this is a double whammy for you. I think you're going to like the pick and the team. We talked about this a little bit, and I think this is almost a dream scenario for the Thunder in this lottery, getting your boy CMB falling right in their lap, Kyle Murray Boyles. I think the Thunder are honestly a perfect fit for him, where he fits in really nice in that defensive end, the versatility that they've kind of crafted there. And also an area where he wouldn't come in and be needed or expected to be knocking down outside shots or score 20 points a game. The Thunder, one game away from being the reigning NBA champions. They have enough players on offense, I think, and CMB is a guy that could come in and almost immediately plug in on that defensive side and just add to the, crazy defensive identity they've developed over the past couple of years, while limiting and letting him come along. I do think there's still a world where he develops into a solid to good offensive player in the NBA. I just don't think it's going to be immediate, and I think Oklahoma City would give him that opportunity where he could get minutes without having to make huge contributions offensively and let that side of his game kind of develop. So I think if he's still there at 15 for the Thunder, that's a best case scenario. So I'm going CMB at 15.
It worked, folks. My secret plan has come to fruition.
Okay.
I think the ESPN report said his range is in the 10 to 15 area. So maybe OKC is his floor. Seems like a super obvious pick if he falls there.
Yeah.
I will say that for 5 through 15, but whatever. Yeah, I like that a lot. That would make me very happy. It would be very good for my personal brand on this podcast. Give me something to talk about for the next 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
Lucas, you are now on the clock with the Memphis Grizzlies, who have acquired this pick
Since our
via
last mock
the
draft.
Desmond Bane trade with Orlando. We will talk about that later. Who are you picking to Memphis here?
Okay, so like we said before, Orlando had this pick last time. Memphis has this pick now. The question is, what does the Memphis Grizzlies need? You could always go wing depth with them. That's not a bad thing. They just did lose, but they just did add, KCP, who, despite having a bad season offensively, was still a really good defensive player. I actually think I'm going to zag a little bit here. I think that, we don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Clark, right? He's a free agent, if I remember correctly, right? So I think they need to build up the center depth, and I think they go Thomas Sarber here. Double down at center so that they can play. Because they lack size at times last season.
I don't know. I feel like you just invested a top 8 pick in Zach Edey, and you're
but
not.
Zach Edey's not going to be playing over 30 minutes a game at any point in his career, and that's their fault for investing that much money in him.
Sure,
but that much value. But if
that's
I'm
fair.
just and the other thing is they're not going to have a starting center at the beginning of the season because guess what, Zach Edey's going to miss time. So I'm just getting insurance policy because he is a 6'7" big man.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good
so
pick. Sorber's really good.
Huh?
Sorber's really good. That's a good pick.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Thomas Sarber there. Yeah.
I also think that is the kind of thing that front office would do. I think Sorber plays well with the analytics crowd.
Yeah.
17. I'm on the clock now with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who may or may not
a lot
be
of directions here.
Yeah, I'm trading it for Kevin Durant. No,
they might.
They very well might. Who do I think Minnesota? So this is again the push and pull between what I think they should do. You have
Chris Finch as your GM. Free agents.
No,
Julius
Tim Connolly is my GM.
Sorry. Tim Connolly is your GM. You have free agents of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Julius Randle, and Naz Reid. You're probably not keeping Walker. You probably can't afford him. So you're probably keeping Julius Randle and possibly Naz Reid, maybe. Depends on if you can trade Rudy Gobert for Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah. All good points. I as far as what I'm going to do here, again, I want to stress that this is not what I would do. In fact, I would advise them against doing this because I think it is a bad decision across the board and will backfire spectacularly. I'm going to take Yegor Dimon, the Russian player from BYU. I don't think he's going to fall much further than this. I think he might be.
I thought we agreed last mock draft he's a Washington pick.
He does.
I don't think he's going to get there. Is what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to happen. I have him at I think I have him at 37 or 38 on my board. I don't.
What is he going to be like? Their backup power forward or something?
I mean, look, he's a point guard in the body of a 6'9" wing, right?
Yeah.
You look at Minnesota's roster; they do need some more playmaking juice aside from Ant. If you believe in Rob Dillingham and you still want to run Mike Conley for another year or two, you could get behind the idea of a bigger playmaker who can share the floor with those guys, spend some time off ball hitting spot up threes. So,
can he hit spot up threes?
Dimon is not very good at that right now, but clearly teams like this guy and believe that he can develop. So you can mask him defensively a little bit with that roster. I think he can connect some dots. He's a very smart player. There's no doubt about that. I think the fit next to Ant makes sense. Like, that is a good pairing for him if it's going to work out and he does actualize his talent. So I'm going with Yegor out of BYU at 17 to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which puts on the clock Michael with the Wizards at 18. They just picked Ace Bailey earlier, as you may recall. Who are they picking at 18?
I'm curious to see who you say here.
Yeah, second Wizards pick I get to make here. To me, Washington's roster is kind of like a blank canvas. There's really not like a lot of guys you can build on. Obviously, you bring in Ace with the first pick. I'm going another high ceiling, like high potential guy, Jace Richardson, point guard out of Michigan State. Obviously, like some concerns about the height and the size at the NBA level, but pretty much all the other metrics are valued really highly. Good shooter, good playmaker, good IQ for the game, good like analytic measurables in terms of draft stuff. Washington's really thin at point guard. Obviously, they still got Marcus Smart, Bub Carrington. I mean, Jordan Poole is like the combo guard. No guys there that you really are like, all right, this is definitely the future of this position here. I think if he reaches the potential of his ceiling, I think Richardson could be a starting caliber guard in the NBA. Washington walks away from the first round with Bailey and Richardson. I think that's a pretty good duo to get there.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, and I think that's a good skill match.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 19, Lucas. You have the Brooklyn Nets. They picked Jeremiah Fears at number 8. Who is Sean Marks picking here?
Well, Jeremiah Fears isn't the biggest point guard, so I think they get some perimeter depth to help cover up that potentially defensive liability. And I think they go Nakeem Clifford. Older player, plug and play, good defensive player.
Yeah.
Can play make and rebound at 6'6". I like the fit.
Yeah. I think that's good. It's a good pick, good value. I have him at 15 on my board. I don't know. Do we think Brooklyn takes a 23-year-old?
I don't think it really matters.
He is older.
I mean, it's either him or Liam McNeely for me, and I know how much you guys don't like Liam McNeely, so.
No, I would strongly prefer Clifford. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, and like I said, you wanna cover up. You're not drafting Clifford to become a star. You're drafting him to be a role player to cover up for Jeremiah Fears' defensive liability. So that's why you draft him.
I'm all for it. I would like to see him in a situation where he can kind of play free and really do a lot, which I don't think is, if he doesn't go to Brooklyn, he'll probably end up with OKC or Minnesota or a team that's trying to win where he won't play as much. So I think that could be fun because Clifford is a really fun player. And if you kind of let him loose and let him play make and do a bunch of things, it could be, he might be all rookie first team next year.
Yeah.
All right. I'm on the board with the Miami Heat. I'm Pat Riley. I'm really old. I refuse to rebuild.
I'm really old.
I got to win a title with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero in the next 3 years.
So you're going to go older player.
So somehow whoever I pick here has to basically replace Jimmy Butler. Tough ask.
I have 2 players in mind if you want to hear them.
Sure. Who are you?
I am Chris Quinn.
Okay, Chris Quinn. What are your recommendations?
I got two guys here. Despite Davion Mitchell having a good second half to the season here, the point guard position is not set. You could go Walter Clayton here, older player, ready to plug and play, or you can add more size, which the NBA is starting to do again, and I go Rasheer Fleming.
It's my guy.
Yeah. Those are good recommendations, Chris. Very compelling recommendations, really. But I'm gonna zag from your recommendations here.
This is why I'm not a head coach.
Pat Riley, super genius, championship winning coach and GM. am gonna take Nolan Traore, the French point guard. I like our development staff.
Okay.
I like Eric Spoelstra's ability to mask weaknesses. Traore has some questions as a scorer, but he is a 6'5" point guard who's maybe the fastest player in the draft, and he has the highest assist rate in the draft, which is a pretty intriguing combination of facts, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want another guy who can create easy looks for everyone who's not Tyler Hero. Traore is going to play the setup man. He can get downhill, create advantages with his handle. I think he's a pretty selfless player. You have Hero next to him to carry the scoring load in the backcourt. So I like this as kind of both an upside swing and a guy who can probably help me win next year. Had an up and down season in France, but I even at 19, I think he could be pretty good out of the gate. So I'm going with Nolan Traore at 19, which puts on the clock at number 21 Michael in the Utah Jazz, who selected at number 5 Con Knippel earlier. Who are you picking, Michael?
This one's a little bit tough. Not necessarily what I would do, but I think in this position, the Jazz could use little front court fortification. You bring in Con Knuppel, could play that, wing, small forward, power forward, pseudo role. Remains to be seen Lauri Markkanen's future in Utah. Obviously, he's been mentioned as a potential trade candidate for seems like a year, going back a little bit longer. I'm going to go with Danny Wolf out of Michigan. Center, probably in the NBA, power forward, maybe with a little bit of versatility. Good size, good rebounding. I think he's a guy that would kind of come in, probably not start for them, at least not right away, kind of just fill out that front court, maybe behind Walker Kessler, maybe play a little power forward. But I don't know what it is specifically, but Danny Wolf just kind of feels like a Utah guy to me. Not super flashy, not something that you would be like really excited about, but could end up being a pretty solid pick. So that's my pick here at 21.
Yeah. Him and Con really do feel like Utah guys.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Can't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you were going to say Liam McNeely because he feels like a Utah
he's
guy.
Definitely
today.
a Utah guy.
It crossed my mind.
All right. I think that is probably a realistic outcome. Wolf had a really fun season at Michigan. He was basically like a 7-foot point guard.
But didn't they just draft like Philip, whatever his last name is, like last season?
Kyle
Filipowski. Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah.
He's basically the same player, isn't he?
I wouldn't say same player. There definitely is some overlap. But can you have too many 7-foot white guys who can hit step back threes and create? I don't know.
Whoa! I never thought about that before.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Hawks at 22. Lucas, you picked Asa Newell at 13. Who is Atlanta going with here at number 22?
Part of me, I need to collaborate because I don't have a GM.
I'm Quinn Snyder.
Quinn Snyder, who do you want?
Who do I want?
Yeah, Quinn Snyder, who do you want?
Well, I really like to play defense, and my team sucks at defense. So Newell is very good. I don't know if Newell is like a great defensive anchor type, though. I would really like a guard wing type who can play defense, is my suggestion here. Maybe a guy who's taller than Trae Young.
Well, that's a lot of people taller than Trae Young here. I'm going to go... You know what? There's never such thing as too many wings in Atlanta. I feel like he shouldn't be dropping this low. I'm going to take Liam McNeely here.
That's fine. We don't need defense. You're so right.
I mean, they got. I don't know.
I think that is fair. I don't know if he will fall this far either.
I think it's just like best player available at that point, and he is the best player available.
No, he's not. But sure, I think the perception of him as the best player available definitely exists. Okay, that's fair. I'm on the clock with the New Orleans Pelicans at number 23. Earlier at number 7, we picked Kamon Maluach out of Duke, which solved our center problem. I've seen a lot of reporting that we need a point guard. DeJounte Murray is hurt, so I understand it, but he is still on the roster and being paid a lot of money. We still have CJ McCollum. I don't know if we need like a guy. Zion is basically our point guard. I'm kind of selling the idea that we just need a point guard absolutely 100%. That's it. I want a guy who can shoot, space the floor for Zion, and ideally play a little bit of defense, which is like everyone's dream. No one does everything. But since he is here at this stage in the draft, I might double up on some front court depth and take Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joseph's.
Not bad.
6'9", 7'5" wingspan, hits threes,
There you
super
go.
athletic, dunks a lot, and plays really good defense all over
You
the
don't
place.
have another
So-
true power forward on the roster outside of Zion, so
No, and I think Zion and Fleming can play together. Fleming can guard out on the perimeter a bit. I think it's a fun fit, and
I like that pick.
that's what I'm going with. So,
I like it.
Michael, you were on the clock again with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who picked Colin Murray Boyles, the future MVP, at number 15. Who
Rookie of the year.
do you have going to OKC at 24?
Will Riley is my pick at 24. If he's still around, I think there's some projections that he could go a little bit higher. But with that first pick, they went CMB, defensive first guy that could come in and fit really nicely with that defensive identity they created. Will Riley is similar, but in the opposite way. Like, he's a guy I think could come in and fit off pretty nicely offensively and play off of, the guys that they have there, SGA, J-Dub, some of those other guys. Shot over 32% from three in college. I think that number can go up to. He was pretty efficient from there. Over 43% from the floor, 42%, 72% from the line. Good size. I think he could play probably either wing position, small forward, power forward, and just be like kind of a plug and play guy for Oklahoma City. Obviously, they have depth. They have a starting lineup that's already well intact. So he's not a guy that they'd need to come in and immediately fit into some sort of big role or a starting spot. So he could kind of just come in and help them space the floor and do some things on offense. So I think that would be a pretty solid selection for them, kind of lower down in this first round here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I have my reservations about Will Riley, but that is like an OKC kind of pick. I think he fits their kind of play style, and I think, like you
Kind
said,
of
they
low
don't
risk,
need him
high
to be.
reward there.
Yeah, you don't need him to play much next year.
Yeah.
Orlando is on the clock at 25. Lucas, this is their only pick in the first round now. Who do you have the Magic selecting?
look, we traded away Cole Anthony. I'm not 100% buying that Anthony Black is a true point guard. Jalen Suggs had injury history last year, so I'm going to go with Walter Clayton Jr. here. Keep the Florida thing, keep on going. Staying in state here. Can defend, can score. I like it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. They still need as much shooting as they can get. Clayton and Bane would be two very, very good shooters that they add to a lineup that didn't have much of that last season. So I like that pick a lot. Obviously the size concerns are there, but when you have a roster that's as big as Orlando's, I think you can make it work pretty well.
Yeah.
So that brings me and the Brooklyn Nets on the board here with back-to-back picks at number 26. I will be selecting as Sean Marks.
Tell them what they got already. Tell them what they got already.
So we got Jeremiah Fierce at 8. At 9, we got Nick Clifford out of Colorado State. So we got a guard. We got kind of a connective playmaking wing. I feel like this is probably a good spot to take a swing in the front court. Maybe a high upside guy who we can develop slowly over time. So I'm going to go with Yohan Behringer out of France, 19 years old, 7'5" wingspan, 7 feet tall, 235 pounds. Super raw, doesn't have a really concrete offensive game yet, but he can catch lobs. He can block a crap ton of shots. Super athletic. Started playing basketball 3 years ago. So he's very early in his development as a player. So there's a real high ceiling there. I think Behringer makes a lot of sense here for Brooklyn at 26.
I like that.
At number 27, also the Brooklyn Nets. Michael will be making this pick, though.
So they got in a wing, a point guard, and a center so far.
I was just double checking to make sure. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's been selected. Yeah, I'm going to go with Drake Powell from North Carolina. Good size for the perimeter position, 6'6". Didn't have numbers that like blow you away in college, but I think he showed some flash playing on that North Carolina team. Started like 25 so games for them. I think playing at a big program like that probably helps. I think there's a lot to hold your hat on. He shot 37% from 3-point range, 48% from the floor in general. Good size for, the wing position. I think the Nets are kind of, like I've said about other teams, almost like a blank canvas where there's a lot of different, needs and parts they could fill in. And I think he's a guy that has, especially for this low in the first round, I think there's a relatively high ceiling potentially with him as the pick. So I'm going with Powell from North Carolina.
Fair enough.
Yeah, good pick. Super talented defender. 19 years old. He was going to be a top 5 pick at one point before the season. So a lot of upside that Brooklyn can take its time developing. Lucas, you are on the clock at number 28, picking for your favorite team, the Boston Celtics. Who are you selecting? Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens, you have a tough choice here. Do you go best player available, which in my book is Adu Thiero, or do you go with a need? And your need is going to be center, because you're probably going to lose all 3 of your centers this offseason, or at least 2 of them. Like, you're not going to be able to pay 2 of them, and then you're probably going to have to trade another one. So, like, I think you do got to go center here. I think you have to go need here, because you're just not going to be able to get it. I think you go Ryan Cockburner. Cockburner, thank you. Yeah, so that's what I think you go there. He gives you size, he gives you shot blocking. You need something here, and he's a senior, so he's more experienced. You can plug and play him easier.
Good pick. I think he fits what they do. One of the best defensive players in college basketball for 4 years now, and he hits threes. So can't ask for much more than that. All right, I'm on the board with the Phoenix Suns. My name is Matt Ishbia. I have total control over my front office, and I really know what I'm doing. So I'm really excited to make this pick and to help us win a championship with Bradley Beal. As far as what we need, we're probably going to trade Kevin Durant here at some point, though maybe not. Who knows at this point?
Mm-hmm.
We really need a center still. That has been an ongoing issue that we have just not figured out whatsoever. So I'm probably going to go with a big here. There are a lot of interesting options on the board. But I'm going to go with Maxime Reynaud out of Stanford.
That makes sense. Yeah,
still my pick.
Not what Chris Kline would do, but what Matt Ishbia would probably do. I have some reservations about how he might hold up defensively, but super skilled 7'1" big out of Stanford who had a really strong combine showing, can space the floor, shoots a lot of threes, can get downhill, has some really interesting face-up fluid scoring stuff in his bag. So
I would have gone Adu Thiero if I was Matt Ishbia, but I don't think
I would have as well. But I am Matt Ishbia, and I am not Christopher Kline being Matt Ishbia, unfortunately. So I'm picking Maxime Reynaud here at 29, which puts on the clock with the last pick of the first round for the Los Angeles Clippers, Michael.
Yeah, Chris, this is a tough one. You actually just stole the direction I was going with, but I think the Clippers could probably use a little bit more fortification in that front court. Obviously, you have Zubac there behind him. Little questionable. Ben Simmons obviously is going to be a free agent. What more can you get from Batum? I'm going to go with a center for that exact reason out of Creighton, Ryan Kalkbrenner. A little bit older.
He's already been picked.
Oh, shucks, my bad.
He's a Boston Celtic.
Oh, yeah. That did this happen. Well, let me.
You could go with Chris's favorite guy, Hansen Yang.
That's actually not a bad pick. It kind of fits the same idea. It's funny. The ESPN actually has him projected to go to the Sixers.
I know. I know.
But yeah, I mean, I am gonna go with him just based off the logic is the same. I think they could use a backup center behind Zubac. I think I haven't seen too much of him obviously playing overseas and not in college basketball, but I think just the size and the rebounding is clearly there statistically. I think that the Sixers or the Clippers rather, could use that fortification. So I think that's a good pick to wrap up the first round with.
Hey, hang on. I got a question here. First off, I'm surprised you didn't go Jean Broom. That's who I would have gone.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you didn't. Secondly, Chris, how do you pronounce this guy's name from Pense? Yakano. I'm not even gonna try.
Yannick Konen, Niederhauser. It's
Wow.
It's
That is a
Swedish.
mouthful.
I don't have the Swedish affectation. It's not in my bag, unfortunately. But it's
wow.
He's gonna go way higher than he should, is my take. He's like the classic guy who shows up to the combine and looks really good in a workout setting, and then gets to the league and just isn't that great.
Well, there's a reason why he's a second round pick. Okay, we're not doing the second round, right?
No, unless y'all really want to.
That's up to you guys.
We can pass on that.
We can probably pass on that. All right, I think that was very fun, and
yeah, that was
we
good.
will now go around the NBA.
Some differentiation there.
I agree. I'm sure we're just all correct, and this is the exact order that's going to transpire in a week. So, if anyone,
I am curious to see how many of us get each one of our picks correct, though.
We should definitely do a look back,
be fun.
like after the draft.
Yeah, keep track of that. Yeah.
See, I will keep score. All right.
I will note that I will not be available next week, so you guys will have to do the post draft.
Okay. Well, when you're in last place, we'll just have to make fun of you while you can't defend yourself.
Okay.
We're gonna miss you, Lucas.
I'm just gonna be on vacation. That's all.
Never mind then.
We'll still, yeah, that's right. We won't miss you. Actually, we're gonna have so much.
Says
more
the
fun.
guy who was just in Florida last week.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, well, look, man, I'm just speaking my truth.
Speak your truth all you want.
We'll miss you, Lucas. All right, let's go around the NBA. I'm going to start us off here because we just have to talk about the Desmond Bane trade.
Yes, please.
Kind of a big one. Orlando sent Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and 4 future first-round picks, plus a pick swap, including the number 16 pick in this year's draft, to the Memphis Grizzlies for Desmond Bane, in a trade that not very many people saw coming. I don't think there's been a single report of Desmond Bane being available. I think there have been kind of conflicting reactions to this. Obviously, Bane is like an awesome fit for what Orlando needs, but also the Magic gave up a lot of draft picks. So I'll go to you first, Lucas. What was your reaction? How are you feeling about this?
My initial reaction is that was an overpay, but after listening to Brian Windhorst a little bit, they're not just trading for Desmond Bane, they're trading to get off of KCP. And KCP's contract was looking pretty bad early on. I'm not going to lie there. Hang on, I got a lawnmower outside.
That's okay. Just keep talking.
So anyway, I think coming down to it, I still would have liked them to get like a dynamic point guard because I like Jalen Suggs, but I think he's more of a natural 2, to be honest. But that's fine if they keep him at the 1. I mean, Desmond Bane can create. Does this make them a true contender in the East?
No.
It makes them close. I still don't love the center position. I think that could use an upgrade.
I don't know, man. They have some good centers. Like they
have okay centers. They don't have a guy that can really like go crazy.
You don't need a center who can go crazy.
No, they don't have a guy that's elite at one thing. They have guys that are really good at different things.
I guess. I don't think you need an elite center. Like Hartenstein and Miles Turner are not elite centers. They're very good centers who have some pretty real flaws. Like, yeah, I don't know. I will counter that. I think Orlando is like pretty close now, especially with Boston pretty much out of the picture. Like, it's Cleveland and Indiana and New York. I think this puts Orlando in that general mix.
I guess the question is, do you think Paolo or Desmond Bane or Franz will take the next leap and become a game closer now? I don't know.
That is like
because that's what you need to get to the finals, right? Is the game
Paolo,
closer.
Paolo and Franz are both getting better every year. Like they're still on the ascent, which is I think something that maybe people aren't factoring into the conversation enough. Is like Bane too. These guys can all still get better. They're all super young, so I think they're trending up. They have 3 really good players. Suggs was awesome. Like the drop off from not having Suggs last year was pretty severe. Getting him back, I think, will remind folks of how good Orlando looked early in the season. I think this is like a real team now. Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to hop in and kind of be a contrarian. I do think it makes Orlando better. definitely, at least on paper. I don't know that it catapults them into like the contender conversation. Their depth is still worrisome to me in terms of like some of these other teams. I do like the starting five, especially with Suggs healthy. You got Suggs, Bane, Wagner, Paolo, Wendell Carter. Like I do like that starting five. I worry about the bench depth. I do also think they overpaid a little bit, and more so just from Memphis's perspective. To me, that's a little bit more of a head scratcher. I don't fully understand.
They say they're not tanking, but I don't believe it.
Well, right, exactly, Lucas. Thank you. Like to me, if you're doing that, a guy that you just paid that much money for and was clearly like a central part of this Grizzlies team that you thought was kind of developing into a contender in the West, and then kind of flatlined due to injuries and like other things. But look, I don't love the roster now. KCP a little bit past the prime. Ja obviously is Ja and Triple J, but like there's not a lot of offense. I think Desmond Bane was like a really key cog for that team. So I think they absolutely took a step back, and getting all those picks back, like it almost makes you think at that point, like, do you test the waters for a Ja Morant trade and see what you could get back, and maybe just set the whole thing over again and kind of start from scratch? So from their perspective, I don't like it. I do like it more from Orlando's perspective, but I also just think they overpaid a little bit. I think they're still a piece or two away, not necessarily a superstar piece, but at least like a depth piece or another go-to scorer away from being like a legit contender in the East. But we've talked about in recent episodes like how the East looks like it's going to be pretty relatively open next year. So I do applaud them for, taking a swing and going for it. They already have young guys in place, and Bane fits, the timeline. He's still a super young guy, super productive from three, should make things easier on Paolo and in the development and things like that. So I like it from Orlando's perspective, but I still just have some question marks about it moving forward.
Well, let's talk about Memphis now. Unless Chris, you wanted to. No, you already went. Yeah, Can we talk about Memphis? Like, what are they doing here, guys?
That's
they
my
say
question.
that they're not gonna. They say they're not tanking. Raise your hand if you believe that.
I believe that might be.
They're not. Yeah, I think they think they're not going to tank. I just don't know what they expect to happen.
So
right.
Like, okay, here's the thing. Like, you're not going to get fair value for Ja right now, right? As a talent, he's elite, but like as a person right now, his injuries,
the stock is down. The stock is down.
So like you have to build that back up.
Yeah.
Triple J. Look, I think you can lose with Triple. You can still have a losing record with Triple J as your best player. I think so. I'm not high on Triple J. Like, he's not going to win you games very often,
especially in the West.
Especially in the West, right?
I don't know what they expect.
So, like, yeah, you might be able to tank even if you keep both of those, but like both of them. But like, are we going to be like the mid 2006ers? Like, is that what we're going for here in Memphis? Like,
you basically need to account for the fact that Ja is going to miss at least like 20 to 30 games every season.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that way.
I think you could get a haul for Jackson. I think you could get like another 4 first-round picks.
I think Jackson would be a perfect fit in San Antonio.
I agree, or Detroit, or anywhere. I did an article recently. I forget where I had him, where I was like, "Oh, this is really fun."
I mean,
San Antonio, Detroit, and one other team that I can.
Yeah, you could trade Triple J. I mean, he has a contract coming up. You trade him, and then you just let Ja
too.
Yeah, you can, but you can just have him put up big numbers and just have the fans interested there, because like, I don't know, you can tank and then just get Ja, like, I don't know, you have options there, and obviously that Phoenix pick in 27 is going to be very interesting. I think Bill Simmons hypothetically said, like, what if they trade Kevin Durant to Houston, and then they take that. They take Jalen Green. Let's say Jalen Green's in the pick. They trade him up to Memphis, and Memphis gives them back their 27 pick.
It'd be interesting.
Why would Memphis do that?
Why? I don't know. Because they wanted to retool.
Jalen Green and Ja Morant is not going to
win you games. I know that. Yeah.
It's not going to
happen. Clearly, like, they're not thinking straight, because I wouldn't have fired Taylor Jenkins at the time. But
Well, I would say a lot of Memphis fans were ready to get Taylor Jenkins up and out of there. Yeah, look, I think Memphis is still a generally smart front office. They make mostly logical and like calculated decisions. I don't think Jalen Green would be a logical, calculated decision. He's just not the kind of player they'd go for.
But yeah, I don't see a path to contention for them with this roster it's currently constructed.
I agree.
And I just think like Triple J, you could get probably more, if not the same type of package that you got for Desmond Bane in a trade. Like, it just seems like that was the first domino, and they might not be ready yet to publicly be like, yes, we're tanking. But if this season starts,
it could happen. I think they trade somebody else before the end of next season.
Yeah, like if Ja gets
or
hurt
next
and
off season. I think next off season.
Yeah, like they're 12th in the West by like November, December, and Ja's hurt and they're not playing good. Like, what's going to stop them from fielding trade offers going into the deadline? Like I think they should.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I think a lot of the conversation is that they just want to clear up the space to pay Jaren Jackson, who's due for an extension, which I understand. He might be your best player at this point, but
I mean, he needs the
that's
cash.
not going to win. But Again, he's not going to win. Like him being your best player is not a good thing.
Yeah. Where are you going? You're maybe a play-in team right now. You won 48 games, which is not like a small number. First off, you maybe don't want to blow up that team.
Just Desmond Bane's borderline all-star.
Yeah, but you were the 8th seed and you just got worse. So
yeah,
it's I don't know, man. The other team, by the way, in my Jaren Jackson article was Toronto, which if they don't trade for Durant,
he does seem like a Raptors guy.
It feels weird for them to make another trade, even though they haven't even tried to see what they have with Brandon Ingram. And honestly, if you make another trade quickly for a real point guard. You could trade quickly. You could trade quickly for Anthony Simons. That would make more sense.
Anthony's no more of a real point guard than quickly. You don't need
but he's a better player.
You have Ingram, you have Scotty, you got playmakers. I think Tripp, if you're gonna burn these picks and Giannis isn't available, and I would caution them against trading number 9 and a bunch of stuff for Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
I'd much rather go out and get whatever, 25-year-old Jaren Jackson, 26, whatever he is, 27. I'd rather do that if I was there.
Jaren Jackson is just one of those players that kind of make me upset because
I know
you're 6'11" and you can't even grab 7 rebounds per game.
Jakob Poeltl can rebound.
It doesn't matter. If he could actually rebound, he would be playing center, and then he'd be that much stinking better.
Quickly, Ingram, Barnes, Jackson, Poeltl. That team can win some games.
Yeah, I guess.
The defense would be pretty spectacular. You're not scoring on them very easily.
No. I mean, you do. I mean, Brandon Ingram's not a great defender, but he's passable.
We talk about the East being wide open. That team could sneak in and be a top 5 seed.
They might. Of course, then again, the Sixers should have something to say about that if they can actually be healthy.
If only.
I
don't know what to expect from Philly next year. We're gonna talk about that at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Not tonight, though. We are the eve before Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Chris, last time we were on, we were all Team Pacer. It does not feel the momentum has completely shifted the other way for me.
Yeah, whenever the next episode goes up, we'll probably have a more complete picture of what's going to happen. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's just not going to be timely when the episode goes up. But
I don't.
We misjudged.
Tyrese Halliburton is going to be injured.
He got hurt. Yeah, they're cooked.
Yeah,
for being frank. But
yeah. It was fun while it lasted.
It was
great run.
Indy could be back next year. I'm
not
counting that out.
They could get healthy and
yeah.
What is Indy missing though? What are they missing? They have a perimeter go-to scorer in Pascal. They have a stretch big. They have depth.
I think that they're not missing anything.
I think you could argue that there's a world in which they just have someone who's a little bit better than Miles Turner is at this point in his career.
But who do you go trade for? I mean, they tried to sign DeAndre Ayton away from the Suns.
That's the thing is they're going to definitely pay Miles Turner this summer, so this is a moot point. But Kristaps Porzingis is probably available. Maybe you could sign and trade.
Would you do a sign and trade?
I don't know. Or maybe you just trade for Porzingis and let Miles Turner walk. But I think that's an upgrade.
That is an upgrade. That is an upgrade.
I'd look into it.
But is Porzingis going to be healthy?
I don't know, but sometimes you just got to take a leap of faith and see where the ones take.
We'll see what happens. I mean, that's not bad. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. If they
there's
could get
risk
another
for trading for Porzingis,
another really solid wing, a second star type wing, obviously that would be helpful. I think.
Would you upgrade from like Neesmith to like, let's say, like an RJ Barrett type of guy?
No. Neesmith is better than RJ. Now, if I could turn Benedict Mathurin into a better player, I might want to do that. I think the idea of Mathurin is really great for what they need, but they just need a better version of that, is what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Cool.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Did you have anything else?
I don't think so. Michael?
Quick thing, it just happened. We were on recording this. The Lakers have been sold for $10 billion, the highest sale of any sports team in professional sports history in America. So,
wow.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the Buss family, this is the direct article from ESPN. The Buss family is entering into an agreement to sell majority ownership of the Lakers to Mark Welter at a valuation of approximately $10 billion. It will mark the largest sale of a U.S. professional sports team ever.
$10 billion?
10 of them things.
Man, the Celtics just sold for $6 billion, and like the Lakers are like, hold my drink.
Yep, hold my beer.
What do you think the going rate for the Dallas Mavericks is right now?
not that. Holy crap, that is crazy. Okay.
But the first time in our lifetime, the Buss family will not be the owners of the Lakers. I mean, How do you think
Nico
Jim Buss would feel about that if he was still alive?
I don't know.
It's definitely going to be strange. I mean,
if someone gave Jim Buss $10 billion, he'd probably sell the Lakers.
Especially for whatever he bought it for at the time.
Yeah.
What is TWG?
I don't know. Letters of the alphabet.
It's always tough to project exactly what an ownership change will mean for a franchise, but at least
he
for
is
me,
the controlling owner of the Dodgers already.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So he also owns the Sparks.
Okay.
No, he has multiple. Sorry, not the Sparks.
So,
he wants to buy the Sparks.
We don't have any more will the Lakers pay the luxury tax concerns? That's out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who has looked at the Los Angeles Dodgers payroll of late will know that this guy has some money in his pocket.
I mean, he's paying $4 billion more than what the owner of the Celtics just paid.
The Lakers are more valuable than the Celtics.
Yeah,
I mean, I get that, but $4 billion more. Come on now.
Apparently.
If you have $10 billion,
I tell you what, no other NBA team is going to be sold for that for quite a while.
If I had $10 billion that I could just throw at the wall, I'd buy the Lakers.
I mean, look, to be fair, though, the Busses never had the financial means to really invest in terms of, that type of stuff with the Lakers before. So, shout out to them. They, I don't even know how much they bought the Lakers for. It wasn't
not $10 billion.
Yeah, that is wild.
Does
that mean Magic Johnson's going to be a part of the Laker ownership now? Because he's already part of the Dodgers ownership.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. It says Jeannie Buss will continue to serve in her role as governor of the team.
For how long?
That's a fair question.
Because Mark Cuban said the same thing, and we know how that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Nico Harrison just made the Busses a lot of money. So.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean, having Luka, I'm sure helped. But yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how that ownership change. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a long-term thing over the course of years to see how it plays out. But that's it. I mean, to me, the Buss family is as synonymous with an ownership of a team as any team in my lifetime. So it's definitely a big change for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was some breaking news that I was not expecting on this pod. You tell me the Lakers were sold. I think it's a prank.
Yeah, I saw it right when we were talking. I was like, wow, that's some big news.
Wild. Okay. Well, on that note, I think we should go ahead and cap things off. Now the Lakers are going to be able to afford whatever they want. Wow, that is just
it's
a big one.
That is. All right. Yeah. Well, on that note, as a Sixers fan, I'm a little bit more sad because, yeah. Anyway, Chris, how about you go ahead and play us out?
All right. As always, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Sixer Sense podcast. Please like, subscribe, follow along. We are on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, please, and follow us on Twitter at Sixer Sense. I'm at Kline NBA. Lucas is at Coach J_20. And Michael is at The Real Mike KB. We will be back soon. for one more pre-draft episode. And we will probably talk a lot about VJ Edgecombe if I had to guess. So until then, peace out, everyone, and go Sixers.
Go Sixers.